In this video, I'm going to tell you about 5 clients that I've had and how long it took them from when the listing went live on Airbnb to getting an actual midterm rental tenant. And just to be clear, a midterm rental tenant is a 30+ day furnished tenant. And the reason why I'm being clear on that is because sometimes people are confused as to whether or not you can do it on Airbnb. And you can definitely do it on Airbnb. It's a quick calendar setting on the back end. It's easy to do, and you should be on Airbnb if you have a midterm rental. Let's discuss the data that we're going to look at in this video. So it's 5 different properties from 5 different states, and those states include Missouri, Georgia, Texas, Maryland, and Colorado. I didn't even have to look at my notes to remember that. These are all first-time midterm rental hosts, but they also didn't have experience with short-term renting either. Some of them were seasoned landlords and investors and had experience in the long-term space, and I'll talk about them, but they just wanted a little bit more coaching when it came to midterm rentals. These placements happened in Q2, so I placed these tenants for these clients between the time frame of April 2024 to June 2024. And then finally, this is video 3 of a 5-part video series. You can watch any of these videos independently, but if you're looking for more real world data, deal diaries, if you will, then there are 2 other videos that cover these 5 specific rentals. And the first video talks about what each landlord got paid, what each landlord host got paid. And the second video is an analysis to look at when a long-term rental makes sense and when a midterm rental makes sense, because it doesn't always make sense to do a midterm rental. I am just guesstimating here, but I think probably 30% of the people that book me for consulting don't actually end up doing a midterm rental because it doesn't make sense. Once they get the data and once they get the numbers, it doesn't make sense. Quick story that is not related, but hopefully you can apply it to what we're about to do. I went to Hawaii with a friend last spring, and we went on one of those cruises where you get down in the water and you look at the stingrays with your lights on or whatever. And so we're going out there, and when we're out there, we're on this boat, and it's just like getting smacked by the waves. And the woman next to me seems really scared, and I am honestly a little bit concerned. I've been on other boats, but I don't have like a lot of experience with the ocean. And you know, the guy is going super fast, the swells are huge, but most concerning to me is that we do not have life jackets on. And so I say to the assistant, so not the captain, but the person that's like kind of talking to all the tourists, like, I would really like a life jacket. Can we get one of those? And the guy was like, no, we give the life jackets out if there's a problem. So if you fell into the ocean, we would then give you a life jacket, which seemed very late to me in the process of when you would want a life jacket. It seems like after you've hit your head and are submerged in the Pacific Ocean, it is probably too late to get the life jacket. So how this relates to this video is that I want you to have this information before you buy all the furniture, before you get on the boat for the Stingray. You need to have the life jacket first, and this video is meant to inform that by telling you how long you can expect from live listing to booking, because your vacancy rates are obviously part of the data you need to decide if doing a midterm rental makes sense for you. If you are new here, welcome. My name is Erin Spradlin. I am a midterm rental consultant. I have been doing this since 2017. I've been coaching on this probably for 2 or 3 years, and I've written 3 books on midterm rentals. So welcome to this channel. I hope you find it helpful. Okay, let's jump into the data. So group number 1, property number 1, they hail from the fine state of Missouri, as does my husband. So they're from Missouri. They had a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and it's a mother-daughter combo. So they just decided, hey, we want to pursue rentals. We think that real estate investing is smart, but we've never done it before. So they bought over a year before they hired me, but they had done a bunch of renovations. And then when they felt like it was time, they then kind of stalled out because they were a little bit nervous about going live and having never done it before, because neither of them had had any experience with real estate investing or landlording. So then they brought me in. And again, this property is a 2-bed, 1-bath in Missouri. And the only other thing worth mentioning is that they had garage space. So they had garage space for 1 car, but it really wasn't big enough for 1 car. So it was more driveway space. And then the garage was used for storage. So that was kind of their special circumstance. So from the time that we got them live on Airbnb to when they got their first listing was 11 days. Okay, so let's talk about my second set of clients and their property. Now, their property was in Roswell, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And my clients had invested before, but they were long-term investors. So these were two friends that had long-term unfurnished rentals, and they were also on the East Coast. So this investment was slightly different for them because they were entering the South and they were also entering the midterm rental space. So they wanted more coaching and handholding on this. In addition to that, they had property management, so local property management in Roswell for the midterm rental, and they did not feel like it was going well. And the Roswell property was a 4-2, really nice looking place, really good furniture, everything. So my clients have been told, hey, you should be able to get this number. And when I looked at the data, I thought that number seems too high. I don't think you can actually get that number. And so we went back and forth and we decided, I think because there's a level of education and coaching sometimes, if you've been prepped to believe that you can get a number, it's not super exciting to then find out the new expert you've hired is telling you, well, I don't think you can get that number, but that's okay because we're going to limit vacancies. So we'll actually catch up to that number, or we'll be better off than if you posted at that number and didn't end up getting it. So what we agreed on is we're going to start at this number, and then we're going to have a strategy for bringing it down until you actually get rented. And that took 30 days. So that took longer than it normally takes, but I think it's because we started artificially high based off expectation that they had that wasn't necessarily fair to them. And then we ended up bringing it down until they got into the sweet spot, and then they got rented after 30 days. Okay, before we talk about the third property, I just want to talk about some books on Amazon that are about midterm rentals that I have written, and there are 3 of them. Let me tell you not what I say about them, but what AI says the reviews say about them. Customers find this book very informative, helpful, and easy to read. They also say it's well thought out and the perfect purchase to go from 0 to 100. Customers also found it entertaining. Thank you, customers. So there's 3 midterm rental books that I've written on Amazon if you're interested in those. Second, I have an Amazon midterm rental shop. Yes, I'm an associate, so if you buy anything off of it, I get a little bit of a cut, but it doesn't cost you anything. It actually charges Amazon. I think that this is helpful if you are brand new to the midterm rental space and you want to make sure that you've covered all your bases. So the midterm rental shop has a checklist and links to products for every single room. It is also useful if you are trying to price how much it will cost you to furnish a place. You can just drag and drop from those rooms into the cart, and at the end of that, you'll have a decent sense of how much it will cost you to furnish your property. Third, if you want more videos that are real world examples, please like this video. If you want to know every time I put out a new video, please subscribe. And then finally, if you are looking for consulting, I will drop information on how to reach out in the description below. I will also include links to that Amazon midterm rental shop as well as the books. Okay, let's get into the third property / project / clients and how long it took them to get their property rented. So the third property configuration is a mother-son duo. So this mother lives in Houston, Texas. It's a really nice place. It's really not that old. It's furnished super well, but I don't think she was loving living alone. And so they were going to live together again. And so the son had been primed to midterm rentals, was interested in midterm rentals, thought it might make sense to try, but she was a little bit more hesitant. And I think some of her reluctance understandably came from the fact that Houston has had some weather events that have been kind of tough in 2024. They basically had a tornado touch down, and then they also had really bad flooding. And so they weren't sure how the property was going to do. I am happy to report that the property booked 7 days after it went live. So we did it live and then it booked 7 days later. And the other great thing about this is that the person is already talking about extending all the way to January. This is worth noting because I think a lot of times people think midterm rentals, people will only come in for 30 days or 60 days, but we actually see a trend of people coming in for 5 months, 6 months, etc. Okay, fourth property. So fourth property, I'm really excited because it's from Colorado Springs where I reside. Also, it's one of my former real estate clients before I became a full-time part-time consultant, I was a real estate agent for investors, and this was one of my investor clients. And so he bought this property as his primary residence, but it also had a walkout basement with a really good separation to it. So he had been living in the property in the upper unit, which was a 3-3, and then the lower unit he had been renting out full time. And this is interesting. He was renting it out to a couple that is getting divorced, but their kids were in this school district and they didn't want to disrupt their kids. So they kept their initial house, and then whoever is not on kid duty for that time moves in and out of my client's basement and then goes back to that house. So the kids are never disrupted. They never had to move their stuff. And then the divorced couple comes and goes. And this is out of his basement. And so that rental is staying in place. And my client was upstairs in the 3-3 portion with the basement rented out. And he decided that he wanted to leave Colorado. So he had broken up with his girlfriend. He took up surfing. Colorado is not awesome for surfing. So he was going to spend half his time in San Diego. And so he reached out. And so we got his place listed. And again, from list to booking, it was 7 days, and he ended up getting a family in there with one pet. They stayed for a month. They were awesome, super nice, and then moved on. And then the final property we're going to look at is out of Maryland, out of a Washington, D.C. suburb, and it is a 1-bed, 1-bath. And my client is a real estate agent in D.C. She has experience with real estate investing. This is not her first rental, but again, she was new to the midterm rental space, so she just wanted a little bit of coaching and hand-holding on this. Also, what was good for her and what is good for anyone that has a real estate property that they're going to rent out, if this is available to them, is that her mom lived there for a year beforehand. And this has been good for a few of the other clients I've talked about, is that they lived there first. So if you can't live there, if it's a straight up investment, no worries. The first one we started with, the Missouri one, they had never lived in that property. This one, the mom had lived there for a year. And the reason why that was advantageous to us is that we could talk about the really exciting reasons and why it's fun to live in that property. And we also could hedge off anything that was undesirable about that property. So I really contend that tenants can handle bad news and they can handle an imperfect property, but what they do not like and what will set you up on a bad note is any kind of surprises. So this final property, this final tenant in the suburb of DC, it took her 3 days from having the listing go live to when she got booked. So if you are looking for more real world deal diary explanations, I have 2 other videos that are live in the series right now, and I'll have 2 more after this, so 5 total. But the 2 that are available to you right now, one is what all of those people got paid out for their first listing. So what actually hit their bank account after Airbnb took their cut. So that's video 1 in the series. And then the second video in the series is when a midterm rental makes sense and when a long-term rental makes sense. Hope that helps. Like and subscribe if it did. Thanks again.